right, let's see what we got here.
And competitive user stick skills reign supreme, and our online head-to-head default. And we're doing our best to make sure no randomness, no exploits, no spammable interfaces, anything like that in that setting. Bunts, check swings, contact swings, and steals. You know, and so what we did there.
Okay, so it doesn't sound to me like the engine is any different between simulation, casual, competitive. It doesn't sound to me like contact power and things like that are affected. It does sound like there's not as much of a gap between defense. They said like check swings, foul balls, all those little things are different between the gameplay styles. Did you guys feel the same way, or do you think they actually do have a difference between actual hitting engine and like when they say like user input matters more? Do you think that affects like if you square up a ball with a guy with like 30 contact, then it's just going to be a line drive just like as if he had 100? Same engine? I think so too. Check swing's the best thing. Yeah, so those things are definitely good. Don't get me wrong. Like those changes are good 100% if it's executed properly. But it feels very minor. And like you brought up about 99% fair going up from 98, which like cool. It's barely going to happen, but like when it does go foul, it does feel really bad. So that does help. But it's not really like fundamentally changing that much. I do really like the thing about fielding. So let me say this. I think the hitting engine needs major work, first of all, but randomness and hitting doesn't kill me inside. When the game is frustrating to me, it's when like fielding is absolutely brutal. That's the number one thing for me is fielding. And if they're really saying that they're kind of not making the fielding rating matter as much anymore and try to make it a little bit closer to each other, I do like that actually. So we'll see. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's my number one thing. Different programming for each mode. It's the same engine overall. The same engine, like the RNG exactly the same as well in terms of like contact versus power versus walks per 9 and hits per 9 and all that stuff. I thought they would like change perfects, like they said 85%. I thought they would take that to 100%. I didn't think they would, but I was in the back of my mind hoping they would. That's how it was for me. I thought they were gonna make it so that a perfect swing is a hit like 95+% of the time, even if it's unrealistic. But that's my point. I thought, you know, simulation was like realistic, and then competitive was like you're making a good game experience. I don't want to be, in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be a good game experience. I'm just going to put that out there right now. I think for the most part, it's going to be better. It feels like a band-aid. That's my opinion. As much of a hater as I'm going to sound right now, I'm just going to be honest with you.
It's not 50-50, right?
No, sir, not anymore. We tried to put pretty much everything we could on the user, from check swings now to widen that gap between good and bad input. You know, we have our strict rules in there to prevent exploits and spamming, reducing all randomness with wind off, limiting those fielding errors that you would see.
Urgency and animations, absolutely.
Those punishments with when you're trying to bring in pitchers from the bullpen with low end.
That's another thing I thought they would do too in competitive is maybe they did, and they just haven't like really gotten into it, because sometimes there's a lot of stuff that they don't tell us when it comes to this stuff, which is fine. Maybe it'll be different when the game comes out, but that is one thing is where I thought maybe they would like not tone down the animations, but like if you have 50 different animations for like a certain type of play, then like maybe some of them are too random to put it in a competitive, so they get rid of some of those random animations. I thought that's something that they would add to in fielding. Maybe they did.
Kyle, let's talk about dynamic difficulty.
This is pretty cool. A lot more granularity and difficulty, which is cool. I don't know how that plays into online play. I don't think it does, but that's kind of cool. I like that a lot.
Remember, if you're picking up the game for the first time,
it kind of like the ego levels in Super Mega Baseball, if you guys have played that.
Contentious topic. We made some changes to check swings. Kyle, what are those?
So yeah, you got it right, Ramon. We spent quite a bit of time.
So discipline is gone, which is interesting.
You know, we want that check swing animation to match user input as much as possible, and we made a number of things this year that we feel do just that. So we fixed some general issues with the animation.
I didn't think it was like super necessary, but it's fine. 100% of the user never been true.
Some people out there that think they can do it. I'm terrible at it.
They say that every year with something like fielding last year.
Maybe it's a trained skill, and if it is,
they said that the exact same thing.
They're going to get really good at this. So that's what we want to do. Put it on you guys.
I'm a check swing king.
Exit velo by hit type.
With how the hitting engine,
making sure that perfect contact rating.
The year, is that correct, Kyle?
Yeah, you're spot on with that assessment, Ramon. We went into 20 making sure that perfect
grass and dirt textures look better. Oh yeah, for sure.
And through the course of the
graphics will be way different. I think we're still probably like 1 or 2 years away from like a major texture upgrade, but it's gonna be better for sure. those are lies? I don't think so. Here's the problem. There's input randomness and output randomness. And I've said this in many times before. Some of you guys have heard it. These are actually, they're probably true. I don't think we can really fight these. But there's probably a difference between difficulties. There's a difference between like top of the PCI, bottom of the PCI, of course. We know that a perfect ground ball is not the same as a perfect fly ball. Perfect fly ball, I would imagine, is like a 900. I'd even say like 980 average, to be honest. Whereas early, that's a good point. They didn't really show that. That was a little strange. Hold on. Lies when they brought this up. Oh, okay. Yeah, I wasn't there. Even if I was there, I would have been closed chat anyway. Well, it does say early in there. It didn't show. I think the other one was, yeah, it didn't show early good, which probably would have been up there. It does seem like early. Wait, just late is higher than early. That's a little strange. I want to say it's BS too, but like we only look at the earlies when they're a hit, right? Like if you're playing the game and you see home run and you're like, how did he hit a home run in that? And you look at your feedback and it says early because your opponent hit an early home run. And that's the only time we really pay attention to it. So there is a psychology aspect to it where we only see not what we want to see, but like when it like really sucks. There is that aspect of it, but I do feel like 77 is really low. I would have expected early to be like 85. A lot of early weak on outside squared. Again, I'm with you guys. I'm not disagreeing in terms of like they got to do better. But I do think it's like we gotta like there's battles to be picked, I think. Why is it that big of a deal when this was in 20? We're done with 20. The problem, okay, so here's the reason, Tiny Dill, is because it didn't change anything. They said, okay, I don't know if we already skipped it, but Ramon was like,
let
me see if it's here.
Contact are not being rewarded close to as highly as they used to be in the past. Those numbers are around 230 for okay and just above 120 for weak. We're really happy and excited with the way that we separated the contact grades, and they fall kind of right in line with what we're looking.
We're happy and excited where they found the contact rates, whatever he just said right there. That tells me they're going to make minor tweaks to it because they think it's great. That's where I'm like, okay, I'm playing franchise the rest of the year. Like I said, I think, you should get close to 1,000 batting average with perfect, good, maybe higher, make goods harder. I don't know. But there's that. There's also the fact that, like I was saying, input and output randomness. The fact that you can get this swing as a good squared up and have a PCI middle nearly perfect go for an out, like not every time, but like often enough that it hurts. That's where the problem comes in, because they're just like, oh, our percentages are fine, which means the game is great. That means the engine is great. When like the inputs don't make sense sometimes. So that's where the issue comes in. They got to fix input. Like if they leave it like this and they fix input randomness, I will accept it. I don't think it's as good as it could be, but I would accept it. If we never see middle PCI good okays, if we never see home runs outside of the PCI and stuff like that, I'll accept it.
Really
that's why I think fundamentally hitting is going to be the same as last year. Conclusion. This is from MLB. Can someone clarify? I kind of skipped over that. I might go back later, but can someone clarify? Do you guys remember what they said to answer Diablo's question? Because I do think that these are pretty similar. Based on what he said, a lot of it is very similar. They never said it, I think. Okay, thank you. Because just based off of what Kyle Saul just said about, like, he did say that the weak contact is not getting rewarded as much, which is great, fantastic, love to hear it. I do feel like this is still kind of a high percentage. Good, okay. That's fine. That's fine. I would like to see, again, I would like to see these separated a ton. I would like to see perfect, good way higher, and good, okay, good, weak way lower for competitive modes, not for simulation. The only thing that's just different is like foul balls and like check swings and that stuff. That's what we were talking about earlier, is that the hitting engine is the same. Apparently, that's what it sounds like. So I slightly disagree, Rika, because it's just a feedback. So if, let's say, your swing takes, I don't know, 10 milliseconds, I don't know how long it takes. Let's say it takes 10 milliseconds just for your conversation, and 3 milliseconds are good, and then 1 millisecond on each side for just early, just late, 1 millisecond each side for early and late, 1 millisecond for very early, very late. I don't know if that adds up to 10, but you know what I'm trying to say is like there's little chunks, right? So what they could do, like without even telling us, is change early and late to 2 milliseconds and get rid of those 2 spots. And then it's literally the same thing. It's just different feedback. So maybe that would feel better for us. And like cool. Like if it feels better, that is a part of the way video games are supposed to be designed. And if that's the case, then I'm all for it. But I think they could trick us with that and just like change windows and get rid of something just so we think it's better, but it's not, you know? So feedback is a big thing, and we know that was something that they implemented in a patch last year. They were just like, hey, we're not fixing the game, we're just giving you better feedback so you know what's going on here, which like did change the way we thought about the game. I thought it was kind of annoying that they did that, but it's also still, you know, if they didn't do it like mid-year, I probably would have felt better about it. But yeah, very late and too late should be the same feedback. I'd be fine with that. Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I just like whenever someone brings up the point that you do, which I do hear a lot of, that's just the kind of thing that comes to mind, is that like it could just be a feedback thing. If it works, it works. For some people, you know, it just feels better, which is fine.
Made our perfect foul balls 99+% fair now. You know, they were at 98, so we made them 99+. So it's little things like that.
I think it would make sense if you have like a pitch off the plate inside or something like that, or outside off the plate for certain like short hitters or something like that. I think that's the only way it makes sense for it to go foul. But we've seen this year perfect perfect's middle of the zone going foul. Unacceptable. That can't happen. Jackie also brought up the point, so this is the reason why we think perfect should be 100% hits, is that the location of your PCI is set. Like you have to hit it in this middle part at the very top for a fly ball, middle for line drive, bottom for ground ball, and it's in that same spot every time. But it's not the same timing wise. It depends on the pitch location, your swing, the pitch type, a bunch of different factors. So the swing timing is more or less arbitrary or based off of other factors. The engine can decide that a certain spot should be hit in an uncatchable spot. 100% perfect hits and let the result be determined by the ability of the batter. Agree? Smooth as a friendly. That's interesting. That would be great. There's like server reasons, and I remember like reading something about that in Call of Duty, like where the host has like a certain amount of some type of information or like bandwidth or something, which is different in different game modes. So I think it's a matter of like resources. So that's the thing, JP, is that we're now getting to a point where we've got something called competitive and we got something called simulated. If you hit 124 ground out in franchise mode, like sure. But in my opinion, if you hit 124, well, your launch angle going down is like kind of your own fault in real life. But in some ways, there's like times where you hit a perfect fly out where like you did everything right that you could and the game just decided no. Like you can do it with Mickey Mantle and ship it. Like it happened. Well, maybe not ship it, but it happens with Mickey Mantle. When we've got a competitive engine, you should be able to take the parts of baseball that are bad and forget about it. Make the game better than baseball. That's something that I truly believe in, is that you can make MLB The Show better than real life baseball. And I hope that eventually they can do that. Closer to it. Yo, yes sir, Cavicom. Yo, Kyle with the raid, appreciate that, man. Nothing is 100% but death and taxes. So yeah, I agree with, okay, so I think SDS has done a fantastic job of creating a simulated baseball experience that looks like real baseball. And we kind of ruined that experience by trying to get like all these animations and things like that and kind of ruining some fielding stuff, trying to make it competitive. But up until that point, they had done a great job of making the game look like real baseball. And percentage wise and everything that they've said is like real baseball. But I think the game, MLB The Show, can be better than real baseball. That's what is
perfect meter, a perfect input, the ball goes nowhere where I want it to. Now, granted, pitches aren't.
Okay, we're getting to the pitching
accurate,
now.
but some are. You know, we got some guys out here dealing in the majors.
So I got to vent about
we know that.
hitting.
But was Par put in the game to deal with this feedback?
Absolutely, Ramon. You know, we want to set
Yeah,
expectations for our
yeah,
user,
absolutely,
and our
JP,
perfect
absolutely.
accuracy region, it doesn't-
I'd love for them to just get to the point where we can feel like when something like that does happen, it's just like, okay, that's part of the game, like fine. You'll never get to 100%, absolutely. There's gonna be glitches, there's gonna be stuff like that. We'll never get it 100%. But the more you're just like, hey, we need to get exactly 85%, and that's how it's gonna be perfect. Like it's not good. That's not good game design. It's not. All hits are going to be Roman candle missiles, and the weak contacts, poor PSDIs will be weak flukes. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point, and something I was thinking about too. Like, where's the granularity? That's another thing that, in my opinion, I think that if you set up your PCI early, I think it rewards you differently. But they've never said anything like that, at least from my experience, from what I've seen. They've never said anything like that where if you're sitting in this spot and you don't move your PCI, you get a better RNG than if you're moving the PCI across. Certain things like that I feel like affect it, but nothing's proven. And if that's not true, I think there's still stuff that they don't tell us about the way zone hitting works. And there's stuff going on behind the scenes, I think, that are actually a little bit more consistent than we think, but we just don't know about it, and it makes us frustrated. So I'd love for them to tell us a little bit more. But I do think that you could take like a certain region, like you got your perfect region right in the middle. You could take a little bit wider of a region where you get, like, if you're really close to perfect but not quite, you get 101 miles an hour, and as you get farther away, you get 1 mile an hour less, you know? So it's a little bit more consistent. And then like another region where you're getting down to like 80 miles an hour, something like that. I don't know. But it could, if it did end up like that, Thuni, I'd rather have it like that. And then over time, they kind of shift it towards a more like reasonable baseball thing that looks more like baseball. But start with something that is good input equals good output, and eventually work back towards real baseball. Sliders located perfectly on the same side of banners can't result in a home run. Perfectly inside, like right on the block. And I'd love to hear more about that. I'm getting a chance to vent for all the things that I've been thinking for the last 25 hours. Low inside corner.
Does exactly that. So the most important thing that you guys are going to want to know,
I want to hear more
is
about
that.
that.
It represents the area that your ball can go when you execute your pitching mechanic perfectly. It's offered with analog, meter, and pinpoint pitching, and the goals behind par is really just the awareness of the differences in pitch interfaces, the differences in pitchers, the differences in difficulties, and just the expectations for a perfect result, which we weren't doing before. Par's
We're on
affected by
1.5
energy,
speed, by the way.
confidence. Your curveball in the first won't look like your curveball in the seventh particular player has. So that's pretty awesome.
Right. So we're basically like as you pick your pitch, there's a little shadow around the ball, and what this is displaying.
They did talk about par. They touched on confidence. They might have talked about confidence later, but these are the kinds of things that they don't tell us from year to year, is like how much the RNG of confidence is changing, what it affects, how it is affected by the way you're playing and things like that. And we know that confidence and stamina are such a big factor. They did say that it's different and competitive, which I like. But we just don't know. Pulse is the originator, yes.
To the end user. Input is perfect. This ball will land somewhere within this region.
Yep, you got it right.
Okay.
It's perfect for pitch strategy.
Okay.
And your ball is essentially a pinpoint. Tiny accuracy that your
I think it's
accuracy is
pretty
a little bit
straightforward,
bigger,
right?
land in
Like
that
there's
zone.
not too much we need to talk about here
I'm playing MLB The Show
in terms of
20.
the
I choose
specifics, but we
curveball.
will
I'm
absolutely
putting
talk
in the
about it
dirt.
in
And my
theory.
in the region of that shot, the difficulty that I'm playing on, how much energy he has, how much.
It just highlights and features to get 4 pitches and just a little bit of input, and it has pretty.
I do like that they say the good. Okay, so on top of par, they said that like good releases that are not perfect will get close to it. And that's the thing that really, I said this last year about perfect hitting, is I really want to know about goods, because that's what you're going to do the most. Perfects are really hard to get in pitching, whether you're doing pure analog, the only time you get a perfect is when that bar flashes, which doesn't happen often. Most of the time we're getting goods, we're getting the bar, but it's still technically good, not perfect. So I want to know how often those are still going to hang. Literally finally communicated what they've been doing. So here's the thing, Jackie, I don't think par was a thing. I don't think so, because I do think, like I just said about goods hanging, but I do think perfects have still hung. Like perfect pitching is still hung on analog. But I do want to talk about analog first. Zone. Okay, so here's the thing. We've been asking for, I've been talking about par for a long time. That's too big. That's way too big. Depending on what part of the like game you're in. We did see before on Hall of Fame where the pinpoint was pretty small, or that was like a rookie or something. But the pinpoint on some spots were the size of the baseball. So I'm assuming this is like a, is that DeGrom on the mound? Meter and analog should be the same and make them slightly smaller. I think these are all a little bit bigger than they will be. It is DeGrom too. Interesting. That's a little strange. Maybe it's late with his late stamina or something, because I do think that DeGrom will have a ball the size of, or a par the size of the ball. I think these are all bigger and late in the game. Let's assume that for now. I've always wanted a par for analog. I think it's fantastic. I think, I don't think it was in the game before. I could be wrong. Someone can confirm or deny if they said that this was always in the game and now they're just showing us feedback. I don't believe it was. And I'm glad that they added it. My problem is here with perfects, with pinpoint pitching. The par should never be bigger than the ball, in my opinion, in pinpoint, because it's just a perfect accuracy, right? And it is so freaking hard to get a perfect on pinpoint. I don't know how much is going to be different than anything we may or may not have tested before, but I think a par, a dynamic par in pinpoint is trash. I hate it. I think pinpoint will be too hard on high difficulties. People that want to learn but also want to chill and go have fun in ranked, it doesn't look fun for pitching. I agree. And I don't think this will be the difference between zone and directional. Like, you have to use zone, right, to get really good. I don't think it'll be the same between pitching. People are saying analog's dead. I don't agree. I think good goods on analog are better than missing the bar on meter by a bit. I have said in the past, meter helps you avoid the middle of the zone more than analog does. I think you'll hang more in analog, but I think when you miss by a little bit on analog, it's better than missing by a little bit on meter. So I think those two are going to be like kind of equal, even though they say that the par is smaller on meter. I think hitting the perfect on meter is still pretty hard, or the good zone is like not as accurate or something, because you only get one input. Make it harder, perfect, but once you perfect, it should be perfect. Exactly. That's exactly it. Because I love pinpoint pitching. I think it's fantastic. I think it's everything that pitching is needed, but you got to make it pinpoint. It has to be perfect because it's so hard to get perfect. And again, going back to input versus output randomness, you can make perfect because you're never gonna hit 100% accuracy, 100% timing, and like 0 degrees miss on your pinpoint. You're never gonna do that. If you do, like, it'll be once in a blue moon. Perfect refers to like a certain threshold. You have to get it like close enough with a guy's certain control stat, but you can't get close enough to call it a perfect and then say the ball can go this far and still miss your spot to the point where like strike 3 becomes ball 4. You can't have that because it's too hard. I think the input is perfect. I think the interface is perfect. They either have to make it so there's no such thing as a perfect release, and your par is 100% related to how much you missed a perfect release by, or you have to say if you have 99 control, then you get more of a leeway for your perfect zone, and then it has to go exactly there. Otherwise, it's going to be too hard. It also depends on how accurate like the good zone is. They come so close, but this is not good game design. I hope that there isn't as much of a difference between difficulties. Is 21 scuffed? It's so close to being. It could be so good, Harmaxium. It could be so good. It could be the best game that they ever made ever. The best sports game ever made. So close. So close. But it's gonna be. There's gonna be a lot of pushing and pulling. There's gonna be a lot of people wanting something a certain way, and I think a lot of people disagree on how to solve the problems, and that way a lot of problems don't get solved. I know I'm critiquing really hard here.
Just wanted to highlight
it's just how I
between
feel.
our 3 meters.
Just how I feel.
Pinpoint is our most accurate 3 inputs.
Because it's so close to be so
reward.
perfect.
You gotta be able to master it to throw something on the black spotted up like that. Meter is our sec accurate.
Like they're setting themselves up so well, and then just like you're gonna get the same reaction from the crowd. That's my thing. Like, I don't know like how confident they feel like this is gonna be the answer, but they're still in between. They're still in between like trying to make it a simulation game and trying to make it competitive. They're trying to make it like real baseball and make it a competitive game where they have to let it breathe its own life. But basically, like, there's a perfect region where you miss by a little bit, but they still call it a perfect pitch on the input side. But on the output side, you have your perfect accuracy region where you can still miss. Even if you got a perfect input, you're still missing a little bit. So you can, you think you're getting strike 3, it ends up being ball 4. I like it for analog and meter because they're more simple. And I like the fact that, like, if you get a perfect, unless you were aiming too close to the middle of the zone, you're never going to hang it. I do love that a lot. Analog and meter possibly could be really good. They wanted the area we're all agreeing perfect in should be perfect output, but whatever they were implementing was throwing off other things in the engine. I don't think so. I think it comes down to, this is my personal opinion, I could be totally wrong. I think it comes down to game design decisions. I think this is by design. But they also have to consider, like, player ratings and stuff, so I don't know. I just don't like the fact that, like, things affect input and output. Hitting, probably, I would like input to be consistent, and then if you have output random, that's fine. Pitching, I would like input to be a little bit more, like, not RNG, but threshold based, and then the output being a little bit more exact, at least for perfects. One thing they haven't done too much in the last few years is editing, patching the backend stuff, which I don't know. So here's what I'm wondering is maybe with the new engine and the new interface, like, they kind of know how much they need to patch stuff sometimes. I wonder if they've changed the way they build an interface like this to be more patchable, to be fixable, and when things need to be better, they can do that more or less on the fly. Whereas you almost never see a change to analog or meter mid-year. All this stuff is done year to year. I just wonder if, like, maybe they're preparing themselves better to be able to make little changes like this as things come up throughout the year. I don't know if that's even possible, but I would love to see that, like, in the next gen for the most part. Certain thresholds maybe, because, like, you do kind of want to have like end game starting pitchers. It's just the way that they want to do content, I guess. Like, if you want, you don't want to be able to throw like a 55 hits per 9 guy at the end of the year, even if you're just absolutely dotting or something. I get that, but maybe some larger thresholds, like, as long as you have, like, higher than 80, like, it's almost all the same on a competitive level. I love the input. The input's fantastic. This is perfect. This is everything I could have hoped for.
Inside the interface, each pitch type has a distinct motion that needs to be performed at the same to the pitch motion of the
It's going to be hard to, like, grind with this because it's so involved. So I wonder if we're going to go back and forth between interfaces.
There's really just one ring there. You'll know timing. Green is good. On time.
But I do love it for competitive, depending on how it's executed. They did talk about it a little bit. Like, that preview is the timing, and then they said, like, yellow is a little too early and then red is way off. And I think if it's blank, you were too late or something, or the other way around maybe. And then you drop it when they're releasing the ball, I believe. I haven't picked up to me. Oh yeah.
Just before executing your pitch.
Feels
Again,
arbitrary.
The ideal timing is when those rings overlap or the appearance is just one ring. And so
I think this part is always the same. Is that correct? Or they say this part is also different, the gesture? So I know, like, the timing of the ball dropping to the other part is based on the release point for each pitcher. Motion is definitely the release, but this part is arbitrary. Yeah, that's fair. The gesture is different too. Okay. At least in the stretch, you can definitely tell, like, in the stretch, you're not going to have as much time. And I wonder if some pitchers will just feel too quick to be even able to be used. Standard PS5 MLB 21. Yes, absolutely, John Frank. Will be coming to PS4. Poor boy. Yeah. So all this stuff, I'm like 99% sure is coming to both. I have noticed in previous years, I have liked guys with longer motions, not super long like Walker Buehler, but like in between, like Scherzer and like Chris Sale almost. Yeah, Stadium Creator for next gen, and I think that's the only thing. I think everything else is both. Other than, like, you're gonna get some minor details here and there, like gameplay things, but interfaces and all that should be both. I noticed that there are some pitchers that I could use in 18 when I switch from meter to analog, like Bob Gibson. I was great with that Bob Gibson card until I switched to pure analog. Oh, Dice K,
The
absolutely.
execution of this release pit will be known as your release timing. And again, a little bit at the top, and it's going to take a little bit of patience.
We're almost done. We've already talked about most of the stuff that's coming up. We'll talk a little bit about custom practice, which is great. I like the feedback. I love how it shows us like down to the millisecond. I do hope that it's a little consistent, because I would like to see, let me say it this way, I would like to see like very small misses be pretty close to where I released it. I would like to see on pinpoint, I would like to see the perfect accuracy region be more like a good region, because it is pretty hard, I think. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how all of this plays out. There's a lot of time. It is weird that there's no directional. I kind of like it though, because there's no directional component, right? Well, there is the release. That's the only part. And even that, it doesn't feel like too oppressive. I thought it would be a lot more, I don't really know how to explain it, but you know, you have to go at an angle and that's part of it. But a lot of the stuff is just timing, which I kind of like, because like, I don't know, the controllers have so much stick drift. Shows the player's input. Yes, it does. I like that. I think I like that. I don't know. Okay, so forcing pitch type, high zones, low zones, inside zones, outside zones. I can't think of anything negative to say about it. Anything to critique. It sounds fantastic. Different motions, timing with this will now discourage trying different pitchers. Yes. I also think that there will be some people who want to flip between interfaces on the fly, especially if you're playing like BR or something. Unless like pitching in BR is easy enough that, you know, it's a little bit more forgiving. Maybe you don't need to feel as oppressed by it. You won't feel as oppressed by it. But yeah, I do think that I hope that DD plays into this too, because I think you're gonna have to go to custom practice for pitching. I think you're just going to have to do it. The way that I personally have to warm up every time I play. Anytime I'm playing the game, a BR or ranked, I have to warm up. Usually challenge of the week. I think you might not have to warm up pitching wise, maybe you do. But I do think that starting using a new pitcher is going to require practice time. Maybe you do it in Conquest or something, which I feel like some of us do anyway. I have to use it well because I can see myself cheating if I know the pitching. That's a great point, and that was exactly what I was thinking too, Diablo. Some people will come on here and be like, practice high and inside fastball, and be like, okay, now I can do this. And then they'll play a game, and then they'll not be able to hit a high and inside fastball, and then they'll just give up. And they'll be like, okay, I just can't do it. I don't know why. Like that, they'll just be, I don't know why, and I don't know how to fix it. So I do plan on doing like drills, like drill videos at the beginning of MLB 21, but we'll see exactly how this plays out. I think this is fantastic though. Analog is intuitive already for the majority. The more intuition of how it works, that's also a good point. Yeah, true. Like sometimes you're just like, okay, I know that the angles that I get are consistent between every pitcher. Like I don't have to worry about that. The only thing I'm worrying about is timing on the gesture. So if you in your mind, you're just like, okay, all this stuff I don't have to worry about. There's only one thing I have to think about for my new pitcher that I'm trying. That's all I'm going to think about for the first inning. And then once I get it, and then we're good to go. I think that's kind of like an example of how what Jackie's trying to say. Oh, I forgot that you could pick like zones across from each other. So if you're looking for fastballs, like maybe up and in and low and away at the same time, so you don't know which of the two you're going to get, I think that'll be something that you'll want to do when you're trying to learn how to hit high and inside fastballs. That, and then also practicing setting up your PCI in different spots. I know a lot of people say like, I set up low and in because that's where I'm comfortable, which is great. I think this is going to be a great practice for people to learn different spots to start your PCI, because once you can do that on the fly in a game, it makes you so much more dangerous. It is definitely a learning curve, King Kong. Great resources on YouTube. When I started playing this game, I was always looking for those videos, and there were a couple. Cardinal Bird 5 was great, but like there was not that many resources at the time. I love what the community has done in terms of being able to find somebody, not just like find a hitting tips video, but find someone's hitting tips video that you vibe with, and like they're saying the things that you need to hear and help you personally. There's a lot of variety. Number one. Number two, baseball is humbling, but like there's so much you can do to get better at this game. I have like, you know, my own ways that I tried to improve, and it helped a ton. I started playing this game in 13, and I was like a 500 player. I won about half my games and swung at, like, if you threw a slider in the dirt, and I would swing at it 99% of the time. I still do it 90% of the time. But now we win, 3 out of 4 games when we play in ranked and compete in tournaments and stuff. Not the top of the top, but, confident when we go into a game. So there is so much that you can do. So it's daunting, but it's in your hands. I still think that fielding is the most frustrating part for me. That if fielding is like quote unquote fixed with the stuff that they've added this year and reworked and changed in the competitive sliders, like I'm probably chilling. Like I'll probably be okay. Adele over Robert, imagine. Yo, I appreciate your numbers. We got another big Reese out here at 16 months. Holy dude. All the legends. Marketplace. If you ever need like recommendations for like who to be watching and stuff on videos and stuff like that, feel free to let me know, King Kong. I've got some stuff for myself on YouTube for like hitting and gameplay and some other stuff as well, but I'm not much of a marketplace guy. We got a couple people in here who are marketplace people and also a couple good resources on YouTube as well. Hayes, Adele, Robert. Range will still separate fielders. I think it will. I do think that there will still be errors and stuff. But I just think that like the range of the difference between a 60 overall and a 90 overall might be back to what it was in like MLB 17 or something like that. Swing timing extreme. So that was what Rico was talking about earlier too. Appreciate that follow, King Kong. Perfect hitting, which I don't think they changed much other than the foul balls, because it sounds like the percentages are slightly higher, but about the same. Improvements to base running, I like to see that. Yeah, so the swing timing, all they said was like the extremes.
That is going
I don't know how much that actually
to the end of the first feature premiere, but we are not done. First, I want to thank gameplay producer Kyle for joining us, but we got a legend reveal. Roll the video.
Oh man.
And there he is, Alfonso Soriano, the first.
I'm so glad that this got spoiled for me before I watched the video.
The feature premieres. That is it for the pitching and hitting feature premiere. Thank you again for gameplay producer Kyle Saw for joining us.